Okay, so if anybody's been watching the news or reading the newspaper or going to the news sites on the internet, you've been hearing a lot about same-sex marriage, probably, right? A lot of politicians are talking about it and everything. And I'm here to go ahead and make the case for same-sex marriage, say why it should be legal, why it always should have been legal. First, some of the objections. I'm going to address those. The first objection usually comes down to religion. People claim it's against their religion, and I can understand that. If you want it to be against your religion, you have every right to. The only thing is that in the US we have the First Amendment. We have the freedom of religion. People can believe whatever they want. And that was expanded on later on in the Lemon versus Kurtzman case, where they established the Lemon Clause, which basically says that if a law is going to be legal, it has to have a secular purpose. So if a law has a secular purpose, if it has a reason besides religion, then it can be passed. So that's why I'm going to focus mostly on secular reasons, non-religious reasons for it. There are some people that are arguing states' rights. They're arguing that if a state doesn't want to allow same-sex marriage, they shouldn't be forced to. That's semi-true. There is a clause in the Constitution that says that federal law and the Constitution has supremacy over any other kind of law. Any state law or local law has to be congruent with the federal laws and the Constitution. There is also the full faith and credit clause in the Constitution, which says that anything done in one state is considered valid in another. For example, if you were in Louisiana and you had a driver's license, if you come to Texas, that license is still going to be legal. If you're in Louisiana and you get a high school diploma, that diploma is still going to be legal in California or New York. And if you're in, let's say, Iowa, where same-sex marriage is legal, most marriages performed there are considered valid in any other state, but in the case of same-sex marriages, they aren't valid. So it is in violation of that clause as well. There are also a lot of federal benefits that go along with same-sex marriage that same-sex couples are missing out on, and I'm going to get into those more later. There are a lot of people that say that same-sex marriage is weakening traditional marriage. Those arguments always tend to be a little vague. To be honest, I haven't understood how giving one person rights will take away from rights to another person. If anyone knows more validity to that or can better explain it, I'd love to hear it. I just haven't heard it. Some people argue that marriage is specifically intended to be for couples that are raising children. Some of the benefits and everything that go along with it are for that. However, that doesn't take into account that a lot of same-sex couples have children, either from surrogates, from adoption, or from previous relationships. There are also a lot of opposite-sex couples who can't or don't want to have children. And nobody's interfering with their ability to get married or stay married. There are also some people that have concerns that legalizing same-sex marriage would force churches to perform marriages that are against their religion or celebrate marriages that they don't agree with. However, that's not the case at all. Within the Catholic Church, divorce is considered a sin. And if you're Catholic and you've been divorced, you can't get remarried. And the Catholic Church is under no obligation to marry people who have been divorced. And if you've been divorced, the Catholic Church will not recognize your marriage. But there's no law saying remarriage is against the law. Likewise, within the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, they have temple marriages. If you're a good Mormon, you want to get a temple marriage, you have to have a temple recommend. If you don't have a temple recommend, you can't get the temple marriage. Again, though, even though they won't perform those marriages, that doesn't mean that the law doesn't refuse to acknowledge them.
Is there a person hurting you? Like, who called? Did you call? Who called?
As far as some of the benefits that go along with same-sex marriage, there are lots of them. There was a student here just last semester who had immigrated from United Kingdom, England, whatever we're going to call it, because his partner had a job here in Houston, and he got transferred from the UK to Houston. He had to come here on a student visa because he couldn't get a different kind of visa. And it really put a lot of limits on him. I think the one that held him back the most was the fact that he couldn't work, he couldn't find a job, and that was frustrating to him. And I can't help but think that there would be a lot of people out there with even worse situations that are having an even more difficult time immigrating. There's also tax benefits. There's lots of tax benefits that go along with marriage and your marital relationship and everything, or marital property that's shared in a marriage that wouldn't be shared in a same-sex couple. There are also a lot of organizations that don't recognize same-sex unions or civil unions as they are now. And that causes a lot of problems. I think that one of the biggest ones is in hospitals. For example, if you're injured badly and you can't respond, usually it's family members, which includes your spouse, that gets to come in and see you and make decisions for you. But in same-sex couples, that's not specifically mentioned. You kind of have to fill out a living will, which is a good idea anyway, but there's inheritance if you've worked a lifetime to amass a good amount of money, you and your partner, and then your partner dies and it was all in their name, you're SOL. There are a few people also that have been in the news that have had exactly that happen. Just recently, Sergeant Stacy Lynn Cornell, U.S. Army, she died on October 1st, 2012. She was a lesbian. Her partner didn't get anything after she died, even though they had been together for years and years. Sally Ride, she was the first female astronaut to go into space. Again, she had been with her partner for years and years and was only revealed to be lesbian right after she died. Again, her partner didn't get any Social Security survivor benefits, any inheritance, nothing. And it's really just not fair that they're going to have to go through that. But the bottom line, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that pretty much every credible psychologist or credible school of psychology says that homosexuality is normal, it is natural, it does happen with people, and saying it's wrong or bad or evil, that causes more problems than it helps. It hurts people.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, open it to discussion. Go ahead, Jake.
That's really a question.
Okay.
Just like to say